Welcome, everyone. My name is Jesse. I'm with the ATAC team with Mike and Naomi. Mike and Naomi, unfortunately, I don't think we're able to make it today, this afternoon. Um, some of you may be watching in the morning, some of you may be watching in the evening, some of you may be watching in real time with us this afternoon. Um, we are ATAC, the Assistive Technology Center here at Disability Rights New Jersey, and today we are with Richard Ellenson, who is going to talk to us about Talk Suite. So without further ado, I am going to hand over the mic, and you can take it away, Richard.
Hi, everybody. Is everyone muted or not muted? Let's see.
They
People,
are they are mostly muted, as far as I
okay.
can tell.
But they can unmute themselves if they want to, right?
Yes, they are able to do that.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Greetings from New York City. You can tell it's New York City because there's the Empire State Building out there, which is kind of fun. And I'm here today to talk to you about TalkSuite. Um, I just want to make sure we're going to cover the things that people want. It's not a super large group, so we can sort of make sure we do that. Let me tell you what I'm planning on talking about, and then if anybody has any questions or things they want to add, that would be great. Um, TalkSuite is an AAC app. It's informed by, some of you may know Tango from all those years ago. It's informed by the work we did then. It's does some really wonderful stuff, but it thinks about augmentative communication a little differently, which is sort of I really why we took the time to make it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the philosophy, a little bit about what we do, compare it to some of the other things that are out there, and hopefully, make you think a little bit differently about what AugCom is. So I'm not seeing any faces, which is fine. We're all used to that. But if anyone wants to unmute themselves just for a second and tell me if there are any specific things anybody wants to cover, or if this doesn't sound like the right thing, there's a lot we could talk about. So if Maria, you're the first one I can see right there, Maria Piccola. So does that sound like a good amount of stuff to do for you, or do you have any other thoughts? Anyone? Jesse, I can't. Does anyone want to make any comments or should I just keep going?
I think if no one has any comments to make, you can go ahead and keep going. I
Okay.
would definitely start with uh, a brief introduction as you would with this,
Yes.
but then if you want to go into more detail, I'm seeing one thumbs up from Laura. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
I think we are good to, and I will check the chat as well.
Okay,
Um, Jen
we're good.
says, sounds great. All right, so we're getting some approval here.
Okay, thank you. And let me just give you a little background about me. I was a guy who was in advertising. I worked at a lot of the big agencies in New York. Some of you may know the tagline, it's not TV, it's HBO. I worked on that. I worked in American Express. I worked on Kellogg's and McDonald's. Had a great career in advertising. And then 27 years ago, my son was born with cerebral palsy. And we were told he would be in a power wheelchair and would likely be nonverbal. And my life was spent as a writer. There's nothing I love more than writing. Nothing. A great sentence makes me excited. Communication makes me excited. And it was very tough for me to think that my son wouldn't be able to speak. So all those years ago, I created the Tango, which we sold about 20 years ago. So sold that to Dynavox, took some time off after I did that. I ran the CP Foundation for a couple of years, and then stopped that. And then recently has started to put some energy into TalkSuite, which has a different approach to augmentative communication. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because I'm so darn proud of my son, and he's 27 now. And just to put like some guardrails around what we're talking about, Tom is now 27. He's nonverbal. He's in a power wheelchair. He's the toughest guy I've ever met and resilient. And he became an actor. He's an actor. Some of you may have heard of the new Ryan Murphy TV show called Grotesquerie. Ryan Murphy did Glee. He did American Horror Story. He's like the biggest guy in Hollywood. Came up with this TV show called Grotesquerie. My son, without letting us know, auditioned for it and is in episode 9 and 10 of Grotesquerie. He plays Dr. Smith, a brilliant neuropsychologist. It's never mentioned that he can't speak. He rolls into the room and he hits some buttons and he starts talking to these people. And that's what this world should be. We shouldn't have to explain it all the time. And I was on set with him and I went up to the director and I said, do you need to show something with the app? And he said, we got it covered. Don't worry, I know how to work with an actor. And I know how to show communication. And folks, this is what's a little different about TalkSuite, and it's also what's different about me. I don't think it's that important to learn how to speak. I think it's really important to learn how to get other people to listen. You know, and that goes for you. It goes, I'm sitting here right now. I can't see your faces. I'm talking, and all I'm asking in the back of my mind, there's this thing going on. Are they listening? Are they listening? Are they listening? Or are they reading? Are they doing something else? Most of the time, how many times have you been listening to something you zone out? How many times have you been listening to someone drone on? It's awful. And with Ogcom, that is so hard to get by. It is so hard. So how do we get people to listen? Advertising is not about putting something out, it's about other people taking it in. So how do we change the way other people interact with people who use augmentative communication? The other side of this is this, my son is also an actor. He knows everyone on Broadway, which is amazing. And he's doing his own one-man show. And I assume you can all see this because you're looking at my screen. This is a show that he's putting on at an off-Broadway theater that's having a showcase of one-man shows. He applied for this himself. He wrote this himself with some help and by Christopher Hankey, who's an actor. It's amazing. And some of you may know the name of Sarah Blackstone, who is a dear old friend of mine and also one of the lions of this world. And she emailed me the other day and said, I'm going to be in New York. My daughter is going to be in this one man show thing called United Solo. And I just saw that Thomas is in it too. Isn't that great? But he's titled his show, Well, Life Sucks. That's the other side of the argument, right? You have disabilities, your life is going to be hard. And so the question is, everyone's life is hard. And one of the things I always talk about is I don't understand what it's like to have disabilities, but I know what it's like to be a parent of a child with disabilities. And, you're only as happy as your least happy child, right? And Tom has become a happy person, and this show ends up happy. And you'll notice, like right over his head in C, there's a little death symbol because Thomas had to deal with some of these things in his life, and he's been triumphant. And everyone loves him because he's an optimist, he's also a realist, and his greatest ability is to appreciate things. So I've informed his life. He gives our approach to communication a lot of the credit for what he's done. I tell him, look, we just gave you a tool. You're the magic guy. So let's just talk a little bit about what that means. And let's just pop into this, which is a keynote presentation. I'm assuming, Jesse, you'll tell me if people can't see it. Otherwise, we'll just.
We are good to go. Everyone can see it.
Great. So how do we do more with AAC, right? I mean, what is it that we think about when we think of someone who uses augmentative communication? I love this phrase, which says, whenever you have eliminated the can you see that part of my screen or the little images on there too?
We see the Sherlock Holmes quote.
Okay. So I'm going to
Um,
get and this
and
will
you
be
just now we see the presentation set up.
right. Okay, there you go. Good. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sherlock Holmes says, when you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And you know what? I hate to admit it, but until AI and technology and NVIDIA makes better stuff, people with AAC are not going to speak the way we speak. That is the truth. We've tried a million ways. People have different apps, people have different approaches, different technology, different symbols. But again, it's not a shared language, and we need to learn how to do it. And when someone who doesn't have disabilities approaches someone who does have disabilities, particularly if they're using augmentative communication, particularly if they're in a wheelchair, particularly if there's some drool or things like that, it's unfair of us to expect people just to say, oh, that's normal and just get into it. People are not comfortable when they don't understand what's going on around them. And it's reasonable that people are uncomfortable around disabilities. It's not right. It's not good. It's painful to my son. It's painful to me. But today, that is the reality. So, what do we do about that? What do we do about the fact that AAC just is hard? Well, in fact, to date, only two things have been solvable in AAC, as far as I know. If anyone sees another one after this, let me know. But the first one is we've learned how to build word by word sentences slowly. With a couple of exceptions, like Randy Kitch, who can, type with his toes like faster than I can speak. Most people, 12 to 20 words a minute, right? Most of us speak between 130 and 180. I speak probably 210 words a minute. John Oliver speaks like 300 words a minute. But the question is, we've learned how to build those word by word sentences slowly. Haven't necessarily gotten people to listen to them. And one of the lions in this field once said to me, when I'm going to one of my lectures and I see someone in the work, like, I'm not going to say who the person is who said it or who it is, but when I see him, I sometimes don't stop because I love them, but I know it's going to take too long and I've got to be at my lecture. And if she's thinking that, it's certainly fair for us. The other thing is we've learned how to share step-by-step stories without stepping out of sequence and with knowing what we're going to say in advance. So those are the two opposite sides of things. Can you see me in a little thing here or no? Am I also in the
Yes, we can see you. We can see you.
hi?
Hi. Yep, you're good to go.
Okay. So again, we've learned how to do that, just boom, 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 and be really interesting. And in fact, if you go to some of the Isaac things or whatever, and you see some of the people who give their talks, everyone has pre-recorded it. And those someone pre-stored it. Many people actually have someone else record it for them, so you get even more prosody, and even more rhythm, and even more emotion. But it's still their words, and that's okay.
Here's an sample audio.
So,
Here's an
oh,
sample
sorry
audio.
about that. So maybe we need a new concept. And the new concept is anticipatory communication. We can anticipate so much of what we're going to say. Honestly, folks, I could have recorded this, hit a button, and gone away and given you more or less the same talk. How many of you have gone to a comedy club or watched comedy on Netflix? These guys are so funny, and they're being so funny 18 nights in a row saying the exact same thing. And when we tell our parents or our parents or our spouses about what we're doing during the day, we're always saying the same thing. And when we say goodnight to our kids, we read the same stories over and over. We can anticipate what we're going to say. So basically, this is a triangle. At the top end, you have your pre-stored sentences. They're fast, but there's no flexibility. At the bottom, you have generative language. As you can say anything you want to say, but it's slow. So how do we reconcile this? It's a problem. And the way we reconcile it is filling in the stuff in the middle. What can be anticipated? When my son goes in for an audition, when other guys I know he's AAC go in for interviews, go to meet someone, you store it in advance because otherwise people aren't going to listen to you. What you need to build anticipatory communication, you need to know what your aims are for the upcoming communication opportunity. Do I want a job? Do I want a date? Do I want to buy shoes? Do I want to enjoy dinner? And just take a second. I'm going to just count to 5 internally and look at those 4 things. Get a job, get a date, buy shoes, or enjoy dinner. Are there any of those things that you would do without having any idea of what you're going to talk about? No.
No.
In terms of a collection, once you know that, what do you want to collect to be best prepared? Do you want a story? Do you want photo albums? Do you want your interests or whatever? Some of you may know Sherry Tennant. She's an amazing SLP who worked with Tom for years and years. She's in Colorado, and she often asks Tom to give talks to her classes. And a long time, like 4 or 5 years ago, I said to Tom, "Look, why don't you anticipate the questions they're going to ask afterwards, and then put them in there as the answers already?" And he said, "I can't figure that out." And I said, "Let's try to do it." And of the 6 questions that they asked, 5 of them were in there. And when you go for a job interview or a date, you know what's going to happen. So then you collect them and you prepare them. And then you ask yourself, what's the listener going to want? Get ready to build your interaction with the listener. Because once the listener knows that you're smart, you're interesting, you share some interests, they will listen to you. So anticipatory communication, AIMS, collection E, ACE in the hole. Love acronyms. So let's look at what we have in terms of multimodal communication. So we have on the upper left, we have core words, we have photos, we have quick chat, we have talk topics, we have stories, we have more talk topics, we have jokes, we have an area for my life, we have an area for your favorite list. And the whole idea of Talk Suite is you start here and you ask yourself, what is going to be the best approach to what I'm doing? And then you're going to go into that mode, and we'll look at a couple of them. And for those of you who say, well, these kids aren't going to be smart enough, or they don't know enough yet, or they still need to learn how to go into each one of these, it sure is easier than figuring out how to build a sentence, which they will also get to do, because that's also a key part of Talk Suite. We have really, really good core language. So what we've done at the top, you just tell a story or you tell a joke. You know exactly what you're going to say. Boom, boom, boom. At the bottom, there's the core columns where you don't know what you're going to say and it's going to be slow. But then with photo albums, with things about my life, and with talk topics, you have the ability to fill in things and speak more quickly. Just so you know who's been involved in this over the years, Caroline Musselwhite, Patty King DeBon, Mo, Deanna, Gretchen, and Megan Fucci Wenzel, who's done a lot of the work in the classroom. The development of this app, of the core language, and the other approaches has been done with all these people. And I got to say, one of the great joys of my life is dealing with these people who know so much about Allcom and have taught me, while I know so much about communication from a different perspective, advertising and marketing, and to watch them learn from the stuff that I've learned has been really, really wonderful. Created Talk Suite for 5 specific reasons. I'm going to do this a little quickly. All of us speak differently in different situations, so let's address that. Kids with disabilities already have a hard time with their image. Let's address that with cool technology and cool images. It's hard to support AAC in an overwhelming home environment, so we built something that parents can learn more quickly. It's tough to implement it in classrooms. I took a year off when Tom was in 5th grade and went to school in New York with him. The best schools are still under-supported, resource poor. And, tragically, that is not getting better right now. So we want teachers to have powerful, easy to access supports. And today, AAC focuses mostly on the person using it. And what we do, it's critical to think about the listeners and the mentors. So this is how we tell stories in Talk Suite, and I believe I've let me what I'm going to show you here is how the photo albums work, and so you get an idea of how everything works and how you get to see the photo albums work in the app, how you get to them, and how simple it is to use.
Let me show you something. Food. I love food when it's beautifully arranged. I love food that's colorful and healthy. I love food that's colorful and healthy. I love crunchy peppers that go on forever. And of course, dessert.
So notice what we've done there is once you speak something, it grays out. So you know where you are, as does the support person. You can hit the photo, or you can hit the word, or you can hit next phrase, and it does the story album. And you can repeat things and you can skip ahead. So this is built into the app because that's how stories should work. Here's a talk topic, and let's see how talk topics work. Talk topics take all this language and we put it into buckets so you have things to say and is organized by communication intent. So going to talk topics.
Morning. Morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
What time is it?
It's 8:05.
I want to get dressed now.
That's a good idea because we got to get to school soon.
I want you to tell me what we are going to do today.
Or you're going to go to school and then we're going to go bowling with some friends.
Ask me if there was anyone special that I want to see.
You want someone to come with us?
Ask me if you think there are other things I want to do.
You rather do something else besides bowling?
And finally, ask me what time I want to be back. And then let's make it all happen.
So again, you can see how all of this language.
This is going to be a great day.
So you can see how all the language there is organized to be interactive, to promote communication in turns. And once you have a clear yes, no from somebody, this is the most efficient way to speak. It engages the person, it shows intent. And even if you hit the wrong thing, you're still getting intent and interaction with the person. So it's a terrific way to learn language, to model language, and to empower people. I just want to go from there. We've looked at photo albums built into the app. We looked at these talk topics built into the app. We have step-by-step stories, which are built into the app. We have jokes that are built into the app, but we also have our core columns. And our core columns are a little different because, again, there's efficiency and there's efficacy. Efficacy means, of course, when it is really being effective. And, when screens move around a lot, it's not that effective. When people can't figure out how to support you, it's not that effective. And so what we've done is we've found the sweet spot where we have columns because we read left to right, but we look at lists from top to bottom. That's how our brain works. That's how our brain has been taught to work. Even think of it apps now. When you scroll, what you're really scrolling is from top to bottom, right? And then you hit something and then you start reading left to right. That's how our brain is wired. So much of AAC fights the way our brain is wired. So what we do is we put everything in columns. Once you know the columns, you notice that we had columns and talk topics. You notice there are all kinds of things that we use in every one of these communication modes. You'll see that. So this reflects a way to organize language, which can be supported by everybody, and everybody can find stuff on their own. Is it faster? Is it slower? For me, guys, when you're at 8 to 10, 12, 20 words a minute, it doesn't matter if you're at 6 to 24. You're still slow for everybody. So let's make it something that's easy to navigate. And let's look at how we do this here. You scan, oh, what's up? The folders up top tell you where you are. Then so for example, if you look here at people, you'll see the most clear thing are your pronouns. I, me, my, you, it. If you don't see what you need there, you hit the folder that says people, and then you'll see all different kinds of people in folders with the 5 most likely things underneath it, just like this. If it's not one of those, you'd hit a folder again. So you have a folder at the top, which tells you what you're looking at, and then you have the most likely things going down. So let's just look at how this looks. Let's make a sentence. That shirt is awesome.
Hi. Verbs. Think.
You notice now you're back at home. You're going to the small word.
That.
The different sentence, sorry. You go into things. These are things verbs. And now you go into things. There we go. Shirt happens to be one of the early ones.
Is.
Then we're going to go into modifiers. I don't have what I want there.
Modifiers.
So now I look at all the different kind of modifiers, good and bad.
Awesome. I think that shirt is awesome.
So again, easy to follow, easy to track what we're doing. You go along the top, find the area you want, you go down and find it. Think of it. That's also why this is a phenomenal app for scanning, because it tracks that way. Also, as someone who's spent his life in marketing, what you look like, the way you dress, the model of your chair, and your symbols matter. Again, when you look at symbols that look like 6 figures, you assume that the intelligence level is not as high as it could be. That is just something that is true. And whether or not it should be, it's true. So what we've done is we've made symbols which are just as legible, which are really fun and which also come in different genders and also come in different ethnicities. So everybody can have something that is closer to who they are. With scanning, I already talked about this, but you'll see how many apps there are. And button creation is really, really cool. I just want to take you through how easily you can create things into
Places. Recreation places.
so important that you can have a big bubble at the bottom so you can always see everything you're writing.
Beach.
So there you go. Simple way to create things. It's you get to watch it. It takes up the screen. You can write a long sentence and you'll always see it. And again, in terms of our settings, the settings are also laid out in grids. If you look at the first column, you have your main ones. You choose which homepage you want. You have some toggles help. The next one is appearance, size of grid, button layouts, readout styles, and literacy options. We have different keyboards, different word prediction. The next one is to do with the usage, what voice and character, what accessibility, what scanning, do you need lockouts? Finally, it's all about the technology, profile of the users, backups, sharing files, and system options. So again, everything is based on this. And we also, the last thing I'll talk about is we have Orbit, which allows you to use any iPhone or any iPad, and with a free app, you get to see what's going on the actual app that someone's using on their iPad. So a teacher, and you also can hit it so it blinks and you see what you're supposed to hit, which means you don't have to sit on top of someone and infantilize them. So we didn't just create the app, we created the environment for communication. And if anyone has any questions, you can go
I'm
on to
checking the chat right now, and so far, Richard, we don't have any in the chat, but I do encourage people with whatever way they feel like comfortably communicating to come off of mute, type in the chat, any questions or thoughts that you have on this. And while we're waiting on that, can I just say that something I noticed two things while you were speaking. One of the things that I noticed is that you addressed the fact that people don't always assume ability when it comes to people with disabilities. And so I really appreciated your comments on, for example, not using stick figures for pictures because it would show um, a fuller picture, literally and figuratively, to show that there's more to a person understanding something besides putting a stick figure there. That really stood out to me. And the other thing I was going to ask, specifically question-wise, is if you have mobility, that's and